the challenge that faces newspapers, in a way, there is a similarity to the challenge that faces libraries, and certainly to the challenge that faces publishers. We're transferring from a print environment into a digital environment. There's a lot of resistance. We don't know quite where to find people. I always say what we're doing is playing. We're playing. And you can see that in my job. I used to be literary editor for 12 years, I think. I was literary editor of a print section as the Guardian's Saturday Review. And then 18 months ago, I was made into this overarching job, which is books editor for Guardian News and Media. So that is for this whole new expanded empire that we have, which it involves print, it involves multimedia, audio, video, online stuff. But also it involves whole new commercial relationships. It also involves a whole new way of thinking about what we do. So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is the extent to which we're initiators and creators and curators of work, and the extent to which we can function as a platform. And some of the work we've done around the children's site has been using our power as a platform, as somewhere that has an international reach. We can work in partnership with other people. So I'll talk you through some of it. I don't know how many of you who have actually seen Guardian children's books. Quite a few, but actually not all of you by any means. This is the first thing that we set up. This was the thing that it was like my diary in a way, which I came to the job with. And the reason for it was what I was aware of was that newspapers have never had any way of talking to children. And I was a parent and my husband's a teacher. I have a lot of teacher friends. And so I was thinking, well, how do we talk to children? It's because you can't really do it within a newspaper. You can have occasional sort of kids' pages and things, but they never last. And they're not central to the paper because children don't buy newspapers. It's the parents who buy newspapers. Newspapers talk to adults. And I was very keen on finding a way of talking to children. So we came up with this, and when we came up with it, we wondered why on earth nobody had ever done it before, because it seems so obvious that it's such a simple idea. You just put it all online. And then we came up with child protection law, against child protection law. We now realise why people never did it before, because actually it's quite difficult to do. But we've managed to get around that. There are issues. Everything has to be pre-moderated, so you can't just have discussion forums. Everything has to come through email to us. But the huge advantage of that is that we have absolutely direct relationship with our members, and the children's site is in 3 age groups, so it's 7 and under, 8 to 12, and teen books. And you can join in. Ideally, the children have to join. It's not quite the same for teens, because one of the things we've done is our members have been teaching us what they want. So, we realised soon that we had to treat teenagers in a slightly different way. But mostly, they have avatars. They give their little profile, to which we add all their content. The whole point about this site is it is by children for children, and we just mediate, we facilitate it. So where we do a piece of audio, the child does the interviewing. Where we do a piece of video, the child does the videoing wherever possible. The children suggest it. The authors really love it, so we have a really good relationship with authors. We're just about to put one up, an interview with China Mayville, which is a child in Dubai requested it. And we can do it by Skype, we can do it by email. So we have an absolutely international reach. We have the membership is reasonably small of contributing members. It's probably about sort of 800 or something like that. But we're getting 3 reviews a day from these kids every day, 7 days a week, 21 reviews, really good reviews. And when we first started, we thought that the trouble with children's reviews is that no one would read it. But actually, I was looking at, just before I came out, I was looking at this week, the most recent stats. And we had 94,000 readers last week of this site. We had 58,000, it's 94,000 reads rather, page impressions, 58,000 readers. But one of the interesting things is their stay time is usually over 5 minutes. And they all read more than one thing. So when they come on, they're really reading. Whereas the stay time on the rest of the Guardian site is about 2 minutes or 1 minute. So we've got a really, really engaged and really international readership. And then when you bore down into the figures, it gets even more interesting. partly why it was such a good week was because of the Roald Dahl things, all the Roald Dahl stuff we did around Roald Dahl Day. We had about 10 pieces of content, which ranged from a gallery of his life to the Roald Dahl Day blog, which collected all the stuff we were doing, to tips for best costumes, which kids then sent in, or their parents sent in the pictures of them as Mr. Twit and things like that. And we had 35,000 readers over the weekend of our Roald Dahl Day stuff. And what we were doing is we were thinking, Michelle, who's the editor, was thinking of all the different ways that we can get children involved. So some aren't going to be great readers, but they might love dressing up, so they could send their pictures in. So one of the really big lessons of this site has been that the first question you have to ask is not what children are reading, but how they read. The second question you have to say is you don't expect them to come to us, we go to them. We go out to them, and we are able to do that. That's where the platform comes in, because we're an international platform. We have readers, loads of readers. Some of our best contributors are in India, loads in New Zealand, Australia, which you'd expect, a lot in America, particularly along the East Coast, which you might think is surprising because they have quite a different literary tradition, but there are a lot of. I don't think there are that many outlets for this sort of engagement. So that's absolutely the basic stuff. Now, within that, then you think, well, what sort of content do we do? And I mentioned the thing about partnerships, and this is one particular partnership that we did last year, which was a partnership with Faber, and it was about creating, and this again comes back to the thing about young people can engage with books who are in all sorts of different ways. It's just not good enough to just say, here's a copy of the book, read it and report back on it. They don't necessarily want to review. And in this case, it was a cover design competition to do the cover for the new educational edition. We had about nearly 300 entries, all absolutely beautiful cover designs. It was so imaginative. These kids were really, really thinking about a classic work of 20th century literature in a 21st century way, coming up with these amazing designs. And then we made a shortlist, and we exhibited the shortlist. All the entries are put on this website, so it's open, and that's again one of the principles of this website. It's open for everyone to see it. So anybody who entered had the chance to display their work, effectively publishing their work. And then we made a short list of 10, and we had an exhibition at King's Place at the Guardian. They all came and had tea, and the winner was chosen, and the winner is on the new educational edition. And so if you think about what that means in terms of children's engagement, another thing that this website has allowed us to do is we're working through time. You can work through time, and children need time to engage with literature. It's not just, you can't just shove a book at them and expect them to immediately come up with something. And I think that's one of the problems in schools. I think that there is a pressure on, actually, even if you just think about copies of books, there's a pressure on them to read them, process them, give them back. So what we can do is give them time. We also give them a lot of books, and this is where it is very much a partnership with publishers, that we couldn't do it without the publishers who allow us to get books in and send them out to the kids. So, our big mantra is reading for pleasure. Nobody's forced to do it. They do it because they want to do it. We send them the books. If they don't like them, they don't have to review them. There's no pressure on them at all. After we launched this, it was about 6 months after we launched this, we launched the Facebook app, the Guardian Facebook app, which some of you probably have been pestered with in your Facebook things. And what we found from research, that created a huge surge in our traffic. Like at one point we'd gone from 3 million to 6 million. That was sort of like over a few weeks. It's settled back down again now, but it's still increased. And what we found was that 55% of those Facebook app users were aged 14 to 24. So again, I felt very vindicated by that. So that's absolutely my instinct, is these are the people we need to get to. Newspapers traditionally have never been able to get to these kids, and certainly they're not buying newspapers, but they will come to somewhere like this. So we have to, I think all of us, the real challenge for us is to go out, find the kids, give them the things they want to read, and then if you do that right, you can collect them in again. And there's one other figure actually that I found today, which is, you would have thought that a kid reviewing a book, 50% wouldn't get any readers. It'd be their mum and their teacher. But I looked at the 3 most read reviews, and there's a review of The Hunger Games, which came in last week. It had 555 reads last week and 538 reads this week. So that's nearly 1,000 people have read a review by a kid of The Hunger Games. And then the second most read was Wimpy Kid, and the third most read was Erin Colfer. Now they're reading it within a supported environment, because if they are interested in Erin Colfer, they can go and find lots of interviews with Erin Colfer on this site. So it's, you can mine down into it, and it's gradually building up resources. So what I would say to any librarian is, please do think of us as a resource. And among the members we have group memberships, which was partly in response to particularly Glasgow libraries are really active, and they were very keen on having a Glasgow Libraries group membership, and that's how we started. One of our lovely, just final thing, one of my favourite moments in the first year of the life of this site was we got an email from Christchurch, New Zealand, from a librarian, school librarian, who said, we have this very keen group of readers, but we've just had an earthquake, and our school, all the school, lots of the kids have their homes, they're not in their homes, the libraries have all been closed or knocked down. We'd love to join the Guardian book, the website. So we said, yeah, fine, who are your favourite writers? Send us your profile. And one of their favourite writers was Michael Morpurgo. And I happened to be going to interview him at the National in connection with something else. So I stuck a mic under his nose and said, Michael, there's this group in New Zealand, and they really love your books. Can you send a message to them? And he said, and at the end of the message, he said, I'm not only going to send a message to you, I'm going to ask my publisher to send you 2 copies of every book I've ever written to restock your school library. And he did. And they then came on site. They belong to us now. They're called the Faultline Fiction Club. And they regularly submit group reviews. So we do take group reviews, and so we absolutely accept that if we get group reviews, some of the groups will not be as good writers as others on the group. We don't. The policy with editing is very light editing. We'll never let a child make a fool of themselves, but we'll respect the fact that they're children writing from different age groups. And so we put it on the site. So you had Michael Morpurgo making a direct connection with children in Christchurch, New Zealand, through the Guardian Books website. And they were just so thrilled that it sort of went all over New Zealand, and Michael Morpurgo is a national hero now. So it sort of worked, and it sort of worked it was good for everyone, really. It was a good connection. I think that's pretty much all I have to say, but you probably have loads of questions, so please do fire away.
I've got one, Claire. Do you have to give us any print support, do you think? Do you regularly kind of entice people in on Saturdays saying, go and have a look at
No, it lives entirely on its own. It generally, I mean, we should probably do more. We occasionally have trails. It's not something we're terribly good at, actually. That's one of the things I haven't really succeeded in yet, is sort of making that relationship. But we do always have children's reviews. So we always have reviews of children's books by adults in the paper, which then go onto the website, so we're making it that way.
But you think that it might be a benefit to have it, you might get even more?
I think, yeah. I mean, well, realistically, it would be the adults.
Yes.
But that's not that we wouldn't want to pursue that, because one of the things I was saying at the beginning, that we listen to them about what they want. We identify, obviously it has to develop, and one of the things we realised was the 7 and under 7s don't review books. So we put it out on Twitter. We also use social networks a lot, although Twitter doesn't get used by kids, mostly it's adults. And we said, well, we'll do family. We'll have family reading groups. And so we put it out on Twitter, and within 2 days I had 40 families signed up. And that's and the idea was for picture book specific, and it's a parent, carer, and a child. So it's a joint byline. So there's the reader reviews, and there are the family book reviews. So that's Jennifer and Minnie, who's very and it's absolutely joyful, because the parents, we've done this on the adult side. We have reviews, and we don't get half as many reviews, and they're not half as good. And this is another thing about reading, is when I was saying how do people read, well, a lot of adults spend a lot of their time reading with their kids. They're not reading a novel on their own behalf, they're reading with their kids. And so this becomes a community resource. And just to go into we say it's Jennifer and Minnie aged 1. So we always, the child is the most important thing. And where the parents who are really good at it absolutely come up with lines like that, because what they're doing. And my brief to them is, does this book work? If it's a flat book, are the flaps, explain to us what it feels like to read a book, which is a very different form of reading to an adult or, an adult reviewer saying, oh yes, here's the latest book from, it's very good. So you get the textural feeling of what it's like to do very early years reading.
So everyone, all the reviews, all the feedback is emailed in?
Yes.
So someone's dealing with it all the time?
Yes. And this is a bit of an issue really, because we're not, and it's profitable. That's the other thing, is it is actually profitable. We made about £35,000 in its first year. The resourcing, we have no resourcing, it's all done for free. We don't pay for any content. So it's very marginally profitable. Actually, if you were to factor staff costs in, I suppose it wouldn't be, but we didn't take on anyone new specifically to do it. And I work it a lot with work experience people. I have a work experience factory in my backyard where I take kids every 2 weeks. I have a new one, and I train them up to do this. Part of it is because I get them to do the work. Editing up a children's review isn't something that most experienced sub-editors would do. But they also give me the insights and the ideas into what kids are thinking. Here's my last week's workie, Bryony, who's really, really talented. And she was sorting out, and there's also an awful lot of sorting out books. There's a lot of just material stuff. She was sorting out the books cover, and she said, oh, there are all these books with really, really exaggerated stickers. She's saying, well, would I really get my money back? This one says, if it's not as good as Hunger Games, send it back. Would I really get my money back? And what would that involve for a teenager? Now, that's not going to occur to me when I sort through the books. It occurred to her, and then she went and wrote this really lively blog, which, so we're getting young people to show us what young people are interested in, and that's really satisfying. So it's completely changed what my job is as an editor. I'm sort of curating different people's interests across different media a lot with this, and creating a platform where we can discover lots of things together. I suppose that's how you would put it.
It looks really great. Have you got any competitors? Are you fighting for market share?
We have no competitors. I think that when I went to Random House and met up with Philippa Dickinson, who's been a great supporter, who's the Random House Children's Book, she said, oh yeah, she was at Penguin, she did the Puffin Club. And she was saying, oh yeah, you'll soon have to have a team of 15 people, and then you'll find that you have to have 16 people, and then you'll have to have 20 people. And it's very labour intensive. The Daily Mail isn't going to take it on because it's also, we're a trust. We also have big education. We do an awful lot of education stuff. It belongs partly to our educational remit, and also whether you are all up to speed with where we are at The Guardian. We're absolutely committed to free content. And the model, the business model that we're trying to develop is to do with open access, is with building a community. So this is our particular model, and this belongs to our model. This is cited as one of the most perfect iterations of open journalism that there is on The Guardian now. For what, it has its issues. It's never going to, we're never going, if you're driving advertising by traffic, this content is never going to be hundreds of thousands. It's always going to be quite low. But on the other hand, what you're looking at is the commitment is really, really solid and strong. And they're coming back time after time. They're reading lots. They're contributing to it. So it's really, it's sort of ideologically sound.
How are children finding you? How are they finding the site?
That's a good question. I think we do quite a lot with the social network. We have Twitter accounts for teens and children. We have teen Facebook account. I haven't mentioned that actually. The teen side, we work it a lot through Facebook. So we have a teen book club, and we now have 4,000 teen members of our Facebook group, and we do a book club once a month. And when we offer books at the beginning as giveaways, last time we had something like 1,000 kids wrote in and said they wanted books. So there is it's very small in terms of the potential. It only started at Christmas, but it's really building very quickly. And that's again another example of going to where they are, and then we bring them back onto the site to us. I think that it's a bit opaque in some ways. I hope that you'll take it out and go and have a look at it and see whether it might be of use to you and tell kids about it. We're relying on that quite a lot. But then there, then we have members in India who found it themselves, really clever kids who come to us and we say, but I'm afraid you've got to get parental permission, and they haven't even told their parents that they've been playing on the site for weeks, which is quite nice. There was one there, yeah?
If you had more resources, what else would you do with it?
Well, we could expand it. We could expand the membership. I'm very chary about it growing too quickly because we just don't have the capacity. And the thing is, when the kids write in, you really have to honour them. So you have to put their reviews up at a rate of 3 a day, which is quite a lot. And so if we were to advertise it, for example, and we were to go up to 20 reviews a day, we wouldn't. My staff couldn't handle that. So that's partly what I would do. I would grow it. And if we were, and that means, there is an extent to which the Guardian has been resistant to resourcing it properly, because it's a different form of journalism. We don't need a sub-editor, a traditional Guardian sub-editor. What we need is somebody who is ideally the sort of skills that my workies have, who are young. They can talk to the kids, they reply to the email, they edit the website, the thing, they clear the books cupboard, they come up with blog ideas. So you want somebody who has that whole, it's a different skill set, sort of. I call it vertical working, a vertical set of skills. And then we need to pay them to do it. And then we can, the sky's the limit, basically, I think, if we were to start advertising it.
Do you have any kind of partnerships with anyone, so whether it becomes schools or publishers or anything, like, is that something that you do at all?
Well, there's Lord of the Flies was a partnership with Faber.
Yeah.
We do, and I would think of it as a partnership. So, for example, Jacqueline Wilson is always popping up on the site, and that's partly a partnership with her publishers, who, and with her, that it's about goodwill. So yes, we are very, very keyed in, linked in with lots of different publishers. We would like to develop, we would love sponsors. If anybody knows of any sponsor who, I think there are sort of areas that you could sponsor that I think would be very lucrative for us. I was thinking, Start Right Shoes, why don't they sponsor the family reviews, things like that. Our commercial teams are not set out to go out and get that yet. This is one of the frustrations of it. But we're beginning to learn. It is very young in terms of the evolution of a big industrial complex like The Guardian.
You talked about this being one of kind of a platform as the approach. Obviously, in a sense, the thing that The Guardian, the website is designed initially as a kind of putting information straight out. Do you ever look at sort of doing that through other more conventional kind of platform type structures like Facebook or something, or was it always just assumed you'd go put it on a website and do it that way?
Well, we do put it. So we put the Teen Book Club out. Most of it happens on Facebook, but there is an issue with third parties, which is that Facebook. We had the experience with the Facebook app was we suddenly our traffic went up from 3 million to 6 million on Good Friday of all days for it to go up to 6 million, and then the next week it came back down to 3.5 million because somebody in Silicon Valley had twiddled the knob, changed the algorithms. So if a third party is a third party pursuing their own agenda, whoever they are. Twitter may be dead in 3 years' time. But we don't want the Guardian website to go with it. So we're using it's a sort of symbiotic relationship. Obviously, we don't want to. The Google is the big one that I think will never go away because our search engines are so rubbish that we use Google. Google is absolutely essential to finding anything, and that's what we rely on most.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic.